And like 2 weeks later, he's doing a traffic stop on a vehicle. Speeder came by and he's going to turn around.
What?
He did the big sweep instead of a 3-point.
Interesting that your chair's
and went around. And the next thing you know, we're burning down westbound on John McCain. We hear this thump, 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 thump. What the hell is that? We turn on Holly Lane and makes a stop. And the guy drives away, and I says, figure out what the hell you got slamming under the car. It was that same coyote, and it reeked.
That's crazy.
You guys got the same one
Nothing picked it up.
twice.
I mean, no animal. That's so crazy.
No.
Yeah. That's like sick or something. The animals are staying away. Yeah. All right, so your guys do the dead animals.
Yeah, it's once.
I noticed.
I had
Okay, got it. Okay, now I know.
We can.
I've gone out and
It's
done a lot
not
of
a
turtles.
big deal.
I've gone out and done a lot of turtles, but they're always alive.
Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing, isn't it? Like, traffic stops when you see a turtle. Like, people get out, protect the turtle, make sure it gets across the road, which, I mean, is great. I'm totally pro-turtle, right? Like, no problem. But there's dead skunk or dog running down the road, people are like, meh. This is my dogs. They are crazy.
Capital, total.
I definitely don't
Hey, how's it going?
That's not.
Those damn
Well, that's why I said you just don't want to create a number. You
geese
kind
over
of break
by
up numbers that already exist.
the police department. People stop on the road for them. I go, don't stop, just honk and don't move.
You
They
ever
will
seen?
actually, believe it or not, they will.
It will eventually. I've never seen. I think somebody posted on Facebook. My parents live like in Portland, and they have it everywhere, right? But something like, we really want the moose to stop crossing here, so we're gonna put up a moose crossing sign. they're not gonna cross where you tell them to. They're wild animals. Yeah, exactly.
I took a class from a retired Alaska State Trooper, and he said one winter, he said that, you know, there's so much snow, and when they get down in the road, they don't want to be tramping through the snow. They like being able to run right down the road. And he said one winter, he said, and that's just too dangerous to have a 2,500-pound moose out there on the road on the highway when people. He said one winter he killed over 20.
I hope it tastes good. I don't know.
But it's just too big a hazard to have them out there on the highway.
How are your kids?
Pretty good.
What were we gonna say? Sorry.
No, it's fine. How did the HOE?
Oh, it's actually next week, but it'll be great because we have a property management service, and I sent them what you gave me, and so we're gonna get it printed up, and because we already knew there were questions, which I was glad somebody asked because it reminded me to make sure I have the information.
We were trying to do it earlier, but I pushed it back. I want to put I'm going to bring it to a work session. Do an improvement on an LD lock.
Okay.
Pressing line road.
Yes.
To kind of help out with the right turn.
Oh yes, yes.
And also look at the other roundabout.
Space heater.
Okay.
Seriously. I'm cold.
Maybe tie it
Went
together.
from hot to cold.
Let's put that in help.
Awesome. No, and I mean that's fine. Like as long as it all makes sense. Perfect.
So yeah, we'll get that going.
Oh, you're
It's exciting. It really. I mean,
I will try to generate.
It has 3 entrances, so
Got chocolate
one's on
too,
the
so
side
I
of that,
can generate.
one's on the other.
Right.
One's farther down. It's mainly the other. Yes. 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 Yeah.
If you ever need me,
Oh, you're the best. Thank you. Now you better watch it because now I'll text you. That voice text, you know. No, you're awesome. If it's still there, I'll let you
The
know.
whole
Okay.
Expected it to come back for 2 weeks.
I mean, it's not gonna change. I'm just kind of over it. But you know what I'm saying?
I really like this kind of music because I guess
Obviously, nobody sees it.
that's right. And for me, I'm supposed to be like kind of out of my comfort level, you know.
Is your always in here?
The resolution,
You're always
do it while right after they presents. That way.
Over it right now.
Yeah.
I think I would be skimming anyway.
Exactly.
Did you do anything wild and fun?
No.
No?
I got to go help at a dive night and watch little kids die. You know.
Okay.
It's a small birthday.
Yeah,
That's
well,
just yeah.
that's-
And that's okay.
Double checking.
Or I think probably. Thank you. It's it was a closeout.
Oh, even better. Oh, love when you get something like that.
Yes, I do too. It's nice of her.
And, well, and that's,
Yeah.
so it's this kind of, I can work, because nobody can see it.
Yeah.
But in some of them, they all cover it. That's why I'm always.
Okay, this is so random. Have you ever tried gluten-free? I only asked you
Yes.
this.
Did I? Yes, I did. That's correct.
Because my niece has some psoriasis, and they tried gluten-free with her, and it's, I would not say it's 100% resolved, but it's dramatic. I mean,
I did Weight Watchers for, I mean, real hot and heavy for about 8 months, and then I tried to kind of go back to routine, and I noticed my brain huge. And so I had taken myself, and I was happy with it.
yes.
And actually I've had some clearing, so I was starting to think that some
Yeah.
thing that either the
I don't-
week or
Yes.
something like that, because I started running diabetes, all kinds of shots and lasers, you know,
Thank you.
phototherapy and all of that.
I mean,
Well, as a matter of fact, that's gonna be my next appointment. My doctor is I'm gonna have an allergy test.
yeah, I will say, so something I found out recently is that gluten sensitivities aren't showing up in allergy tests for so many people because it's in so many different kinds of grains now. Like the way that it's part of the protein molecule of most wheat, but it's in the like.
Hey, how are you? I'm a caress. I can hug your neck. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, good try, George. I didn't see that. Let me see it. No. That is so cute. I love it. That's so fun. Nice. I love
I
it.
need to cover that up.
It's funny, right? Because it seems like it should be.
They didn't bring it-
but
they didn't
I
bring
love
the
it.
truck
It's
this
still
time.
fun. I like the Eiffel Tower.
Put 'em
with
as
it.
disappoint.
It's great.
Or Hippo or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Thank you. See, he's not careful.
Don't be getting.
Careful.
No, it's just, forgive me.
And you guys need a water?
Sure. Do I need to hydrate with this?
Hopefully not.
What are you trying to say, Jerry?
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not liking the,
Does everybody have hydrate?
I'm not liking the tone of his offer.
4 hours and 15 minutes.
That's not funny, George. It's not funny.
What is yours today?
He said 4 hours.
4 hours and 15 minutes.
What's your guess for tonight?
What on earth?
You have something under
They changed my,
skin? Yes.
I know they're on the opposite
they
side.
can't do that.
I know, I need to get
Been messing with our microphones.
I was turning mine towards you, and then I saw you already had it.
it was just that one piece. Yeah.
It's because you're perfect.
7:30.
Tammy's change the definition or clarify the definition either way.
Yeah.
Tammy.
Okay. Waiting on Tammy.
Oh, always waiting on Tammy.
Okay, it's 7:30. I think we're ready to start. So I'm going to go ahead and call the City Council meeting of the City of Colleyville for February the 19th, 2019 to order at 7:30 p.m. So we're now in order. Meetings with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. So Pastor Preston Reedy of the Journey Church is going to do our invocation for us. So will y'all please stand?
Please join me. Father, we thank you for your goodness and faithfulness to our community. We thank you for solid, capable leadership. We thank you for all the blessings that are upon Colleyville. Tonight, I ask that you will give our leadership divine wisdom, unity, and direction, that you lead and guide them. We ask, Father, that your hand of blessing continue to rest upon our wonderful city, and that you would truly bless the citizens of this community. We thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pastor, thank you very much for coming and doing that for us. It really is important to do and meaningful. So I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We love it when citizens come out for the meetings. I always say this. I'm going to say it one more time. You that come a lot may get tired of it, but on the agenda tonight, we have a number of items that have public hearings. Everyone is welcome to speak at any public hearing. In fact, we encourage it. There are cards in the back that you can fill out and identify which item you'd like to speak on. It has your name and address on it. We have to put that in the record. If you'd fill that out, we'd appreciate it. Bring it forward to anybody, city secretary, and we will accumulate those. You can do that any time in the meeting. However, I will not close a public hearing without asking if everyone in the room that may want to speak has spoken. So you'll have every opportunity to do that. So please do if you would like to. So I'm going to move to agenda item 2. Now, we just came out of executive session, as we always do, immediately prior to this meeting. Sometimes we have discussed things that require action. All action has to be done in a public setting, and so tonight we do have an action to take, so we have a resolution for agenda item 2. However, that action is related to agenda item 6B, and so we are going to defer that to agenda item to just after agenda item 6B, because 6B involves an application for a special use permit, and if that special use permit is approved, which I highly suspect it will be, then agenda item 2 is relevant, because that is a grant application for that particular building that the owner has applied for, so we will take that up at the time. Therefore, we're deferring 2 until then, and so we'll move to agenda item 3. Agenda item 3 is announcements, proclamations, and presentations, so we always do announcements first. We always have some. I have wanted to mention a couple of things. One, at the beginning of the year, we always do a State of the City address to tell citizens what the state of the city is. So we put that together. I have presented that on 2 occasions so far. One was to the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and another one was at the CEO organization last week. And so I was asked by a citizen, can you do that for everyone? I said, absolutely. We're happy to do this as many times as people would like to hear it, because we want to get the word out. It's good information. And so we're going to schedule one at either here or the Colleyville Center for the general public. Anyone can come, and we will. We videoed the first one, so we will have that video available, and we will live stream this one, so even if you can't come, you could still watch it. So we haven't set a date. We will do that and let everyone know when that is. The other thing I wanted to note was our fire department is in the process of updating our insurance service office rating. It's called the ISO rating. That process actually began in November of 2018. It's one of those processes where you have to gather up a lot of information. It's a certification process, and so they are in the process of going through and doing that. Someone had commented on this recently, so I wanted to publicly talk about it. This process has not been gone through since 1990, so it's been a while. And so we expect that process to be complete in a month or so. I fully expect we'll have an ISO rating of 2. Makes no sense not to. So just want to throw that out there for you that may be interested. Yes?
Clarify that lower is better.
Oh, lower is better. Yeah, lower is better. And why is it interesting? The ISO ratings can affect your insurance rate. Not all insurance companies do, but some do. So it's important to have. So I know there's others. Announcements, go ahead.
Yep. I actually just want to announce that we're going to have coffee with first responders. Join the neighborhood for coffee and conversations on Thursday, February the 28th at 8:30, located at Brahms. Enjoy coffee with the opportunity to ask questions, voice your concerns, and get to know the officers and firefighters in your neighborhood. Right now we have Chief Firefighter back there and Chief Ray that's representing. If you have any questions right now, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer them. But this coffee with first responders is going to be great. Come in and have a cup of coffee and a little bit of breakfast and spend some time with our first responders.
I've got a couple things. First of all, I want to say it's great to see all these kids out here, and that's filling up this side of the room. We love our kids, we love our schools, and we're really glad you guys are here. Thank you for coming. Second of all, Movies in the Village start up again March 15th. We had 7:15. We have, what is the movie? Ralph Breaks the Internet. And I haven't seen that one, so I'm sure I'll have to come out. That'll be interesting. So bring your blankets, lawn chairs. We have free popcorn and lemonade. And bring the whole family and hang out under the stars because it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Excellent. And I wanted to also tell about another event that's coming up, which is the annual Clean Sweep, which is always a great event. It's March 16th, 2019, of course. It's when you can bring all of your junk from your house that you need to get rid of and you don't know where to take it. So paint, recycling, electronics recycling, document shredding, bulk or brush trash, tire recycling. If you need more details, you can visit the Colleyville.com website, and we'd love to help you with that.
And I'm going to talk about the Architectural Review Committee. This is a committee that is part of the standard committees for the city. And staff is in the process of scheduling a meeting with the Architectural Review Committee to look at sometime around mid-March to review the sign criteria that was discussed. The signs throughout the city, the City Council has come up with a number of changes with staff's suggestions, and we want to make sure that the Architectural Review Committee has input to that. And as I said, that's coming up in mid-March.
And I get to talk about a great new addition to the Colleyville Police Department. The Colleyville Police Department received a donation from the First United Methodist Church of Colleyville. They've donated a new Cannondale police bike for the bike patrol unit. We're very thankful to FUMC for their generosity and their partnership in public safety. And I also wanted to put a little plug in for some of us that are going to take the Citizens Police Academy starting this week. Looking forward to it myself, and I know several other members of the council here and other people in the community are very excited about it.
Wonderful, get to ride that bike.
Do we get to?
Yeah.
I'm sure you
knock,
can.
knock yourself out.
I want the Harleys. I don't want the bicycle.
I'll take the bike. I have a.
So if that's all the announcements, then I want to do two other things. The first thing I want to do is acknowledge and recognize our GCSD debate teams and coaches. So if Rehab Mohan, who is the World School Captain for the GCSD Middle School, would come down, and Jane Boyd, head coach of the GHS debate team and National Debate Hall of Fame coach, and David Houston, who is the head coach of CHS debate team and National Debate Hall of Famer also. Would y'all join me right down here? I'd appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm on. So we thank all of you guys for coming. We've got a lot of members of the debate team. I think they're going to call up in a second. Come on over here a little bit. We're going to need more room. Can you hear me? Is this on? Yeah. Okay. But, you know, I wanted to acknowledge the debate team. It's a great program because what these young men and women learn in the debate process is all about communication in many different forms. And I can tell you from my personal experience in business and the other things that I've done, in nearly any job I've had, success depends probably 90% on communication and relationships and how you communicate and relate with people. And so this really goes a long way to teaching and provide experience for that. So I really applaud all of you that are in this, and especially you guys who are teaching it. And I can tell you, you did a little research, and your programs have a lot of honors. I can't even list them all. I did print out a page that listed a bunch of them. I'm assuming you guys are going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to let you call them up, and then I'm going to do the proclamation.
Wonderful, yeah. So I'm just going to quickly start off by calling each member of our debate team who's here to represent us. So first, Jay McClure, Aiden Weavido, Ethan Hallman, Dylan Shaw, Micah Thode, Ruth Thode, Praveen Mohan, Colin Way, Daniel Lee, Idbon Nafi, Sarah Manji, Tori Pattinson, Akshaya Mohan, Camille Temple, Anisha Navendra, Mina Chow, Joanna Wang, Haley Smythe. Let's give them all a round of applause, please.
I'm impressed. You had them all lined up in order, named them all off. That's neat. Did you guys want to brag on everybody a little bit?
Hi, I'm Jane Boyd. I've been at Grapevine High School for 31 years. And thank you very much for recognizing and being so supportive. Both debate teams, I'm going to just kind of be the mother of all, because debate has been active in the Grapevine School District and then into the Grapevine Colleyville School District. The earliest notation of a debate team was in 1918. And so we have a great history. We have national champions. We have state champions. We have tons of districts and regional champions. We've gone all over the country, and our kids have won some major tournaments, the Harvard Round Robin, Berkeley, to just name a few. And we could not do it if we did not have our parents. Some of them are out here, and our school district and our communities who bless us and help us, and thank you very much. And now I'm going to let Dave Houston, who not only is also a Hall of Famer, but he is on the National Council for NSDA. And so, Dave Houston.
All right. It's always my privilege to work with young people like this. Some of the members are very tired because we just got back from the tournament out in Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. That's one of the things we've been able to do this year. But long history of both programs of being extremely successful and everything. But most importantly, the two of us that are standing up here in front should actually be standing in the back. It's about these kids. It's about them. And that's why I serve on the board of directors for the National Speech and Debate Association, because if you ask me what that organization does, what we do for these young people, we give them a voice. We give them a voice that very often they don't get heard. But we talk to them about talking loud and proud. And would love to see you engage some of them. You'll see that on March 1st, it says that we are having a proclamation. If you want to see these kids in action, that's actually a qualification tournament for the National Speech and Debate Association National Tournament that will be held at Colleyville Heritage High School on not only the 1st, but also the 2nd. So if you want to see these kids in action, come out and you can see them debate. So it'll be a lot of fun.
And I would be remiss without acknowledging we have a school board member here, Mindy. So raise your hand. So yeah, you're the coordinator, maybe. So I have a proclamation recognizing National Speech and Debate Education Day. So let me read the proclamation. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Whereas National Speech and Debate Education Day is being celebrated on March 1, 2019, and whereas established by the National Speech and Debate Association in conjunction with national and local partners, this event serves to promote better instruction in speech and debate across all grade levels and to highlight the pivotal roles these abilities play in personal advocacy, social movements, and public policy making. Whereas speech and debate education helps students develop important skills in communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration through the practice of public speaking, participants learn not only to analyze and express complex ideas effectively, but also to listen, concur, question, and dissent with reason and compassion. Those are really important skills when you sit up here at a body like this. So you guys are learning. I expect to see you later. Whereas across the country, countless educators devote in-school, after-school, and weekend time to supporting their students in speech and debate practices and competitions, and the example of hard work and dedication they set has lasting positive impact on their pupils. And whereas the skills learned through speech and debate serve students well throughout their lives, and this occasion presents a welcome opportunity to recognize such instruction as an essential component of a well-rounded curriculum. Now therefore, I, Richard Newton, Mayor of the City of Colleyville, Texas, on behalf of the Colleyville City Council and citizens of Colleyville, do hereby proclaim March 1, 2019 as National Speech and Debate Education Day in Colleyville. In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and seal of the City of Colleyville, Texas, affixed this 19th day of February 2019. So. Okay, we always have to get pictures. I'm putting this mic down.
Okay. We need kind of a lineup.
Shift this way, guys. Yeah, this way.
Just the little ones in front.
Oh. You're gonna have to shift that away.
Sorry, that includes me. Give it over. Okay, some of y'all over here.
All right. Congratulations. Great job.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Coming out.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you guys again for coming. Okay, now I have the pleasure, we have the business of the month, which is Hall Beer and Wine Spirits. Charlie Hall, come on up here. And, and bring your family. So. Thanks. How are you doing?
Bring the whole family up.
How are you doing? Glad you're here. This is Adrian Lothridge going to help me with this. But I think everybody in town knows you and your family. Sometimes it's bad. I mean, I really and honestly and truly kind of think of you as an icon of Colleyville. So your family goes back generations. You have a large family. I know you had uncles and grandparents, and Hall Johnson Road is named after your family. 30s, yeah. And in fact, I was telling my wife Linda, which was Linda Self, that yeah, we're doing the business of the month for Charlie and group tonight. And she said, I was in first grade with him. I said, you believe it? And I said, hey, you got a picture of that? So she went upstairs looking for the annual for that year, because everybody's in the Grapevine School. I mean, all grades were in that out there where Faith Christian School is. Yeah, so she couldn't find year one, first grade, but she did find, y'all weren't in the same class, second grade, I think. She found second grade, so show that picture. So this is your second grade class.
Nice.
And That's you in the lower right. You were a good-looking kid. What happened? I just wanted to show. No. Well, it's the history. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, okay, I'll tell you one other thing. A stepson of mine who came with Linda's side of the family, good friends. When they were in high school, his friend worked for you. And I know you did. And so what I wanted to say is what my son remembered that his friend told him is, yeah, I worked down there with Charlie, and Charlie always made sure I did my homework. I mean, that's great. Yeah.
I put you outside looking in. And why have I done that? I said, you looked outside for 30 minutes. Why not go outside and look in?
That's all great stuff, a great trait, so we appreciate that. I mean, you all have done so much for this community.
Yes, they have.
And so, I mean, I know the store you're in, I think, started there in 1938. So, go to the Colleyville history book, pages 40 and 41 is where it talks about your family, and the store is talked about there. I think it was first there in 1938. I think that, in fact, there's the picture of it in the middle.
That's the old Grapevine Ag building. That's what it was.
In the 90s or so when the building changed, but you're still in that.
We had a store across the street from that.
Okay.
That was Hall across the street. Now, it was, it knocked it down and they put that 7-Eleven there. And I think Daddy had it in the 50s. I can't even remember. I wasn't, 51 was it. And we moved from there in 56 to the lake. Well, we were at the Catfish Hut in 56, or at Midway Camp.
There's a lot of interesting history. You're a survivor. But, we wanted to recognize you guys. We really appreciate you being in Colleyville. We appreciate your business being in Colleyville. You bring a lot to the community. Charlie's one of the guys that does a lot in the community, supports the police department, the barbecue, many things, never wants to be recognized for that, wants to be in the background. We just wanted to say we appreciate it. We thank you. Thank you for being here. We hope you're here for a long time to come. And so we wanted to present you with this real simple little token that acknowledges that. And we'll have your name put on it. But you want to say anything, Adrian?
Just wanted to say thank you for being here. As Mayor mentioned, obviously your roots in the community really run deep, and that's so important and in this community where we value those things. And thank you for continuing to invest in the community here in Colleyville, and we appreciate you. And I can't imagine anyone not knowing about Halls, but just in case they don't, as a reminder, Halls has a great selection of beer, wine, and spirits and some fantastic barbecue. So please go visit them if you haven't. And we just really appreciate you being here.
I'm going to do a real dangerous thing and hand you the mic. We'll say
no.
Give
it to Faye.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, but I really don't need the mic.
There's the boss.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Charlie and I really do love Colleyville. I think it shows. We've stuck it out through thick and thin. We personally have been on that corner since 1972. We've lived there in a mobile home for 15 years before we bought our first house. And we've raised our children there, our grandchildren. But we really do love Colleyville. We live in Colleyville, we work in Colleyville. What better is it?
That's right.
What better is it? We love this community. Thank you very much.
Honored that all of you are here and you have such a great history, and you've done so much for Colleyville, and we thank all of you, your whole family. So, thanks. We got to get pictures.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Faye.
you.
Love you guys.
Thanks, Faye.
See you, buddy.
There it is, there's my agenda. Okay, we'll now move to agenda item number 4, which is the consent resolution. So we'll have a public hearing on this. This is Resolution R-19-4356, a resolution approving city council action under consent items at the regular city council meeting of February the 19th, 2019. Whereas city council has taken action on certain items on the agenda under consent items. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the agenda decisions approved by City Council action under consent items as follows are hereby adopted. A, approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of February 5, 2019. Approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of January 22nd, 2019. Approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of January the 15th, 2019. Approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of December the 18th, 2018. That's a lot of minutes. E, approval of an interlocal agreement for the traffic signal at Heritage and Cheeksburger Road and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. F, approval of an amendment to the professional services agreement with Trans Systems, Inc., increasing the contract $34,555 from $942,130.40 to an amount not to exceed $976,685.40 for the design of the improvements to Glade Road, amending the design parameters of Phase 2, addressing supplemental work to include the design of a 12-inch water line from Thompson Terrace to Pool Road, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. And it is so resolved. So we should have some staff briefings on E and F.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. I'm going to speak on E and F. So starting with the interlocal agreement of the intersection of Cheeksburger and Heritage Road. The city has joined the coalition of Tarrant County, the city of Bedford, and the city of Euless to look and analyze the intersection at Cheeksburger and Heritage to see what kind of signal improvements we can do in that area. Currently, that intersection is unsignalized, just with 2 stop signs on Heritage, and there's a lot of traffic volume, so the cities and the county thought it'd be a good idea to start looking into that area and planning it out for the future as well. So we would be hiring an engineer, consulting engineer, to look at that area, forecast what traffic populations we may have or traffic flows we may have in the future, and design the final intersection layout according to those pavement widening to accommodate the future traffic. The city of Euless has already set aside $50,000 based on the apartment development they just completed just this past summer in 2018. So they already have some skin in the game, and they're asking for the rest of the cities to participate as well. The overall construction cost for the signal improvement will be around $250,000 is what we're assuming, and each city in the county will participate 25%. But in order to get it started, we're just going to contribute $25,000 to the engineering study with City of Euless. Yes, City of Euless is taking the lead in hiring the consulting firm and taking the design lead on that one. So that is it on that one. On E is the Phase 2 Glade Road waterline improvement. As we were reviewing the 95% plans for Glade Road, I was noticing, the engineering team and I were noticing there was a bunch of patchwork for the water line, the existing water line that's currently under the road. It's an existing 8-inch water line. And while we're there, it made sense to just go ahead and redo the whole water line up to a 12-inch to accommodate the whole entire area and provide water to the neighborhoods in that area. So it was a good time to go ahead while we have the road open for construction to upsize the water line from an 8-inch to a 12-inch. And that construction cost for the water line would be an additional $1.3 million, which the design fee came out to $34,000 to do the design. So it did came out a good cost for us to do it and take care of it with the construction of Glade Road. just as a quick reminder, let me hit over there. Here is the construction schedule for Glade Road. We're still on target to move, start moving, relocating franchise utilities in May 2019 with the construction award date of March 2020. The water line will be constructed at the same time as the road opening. Will not be done with the franchise utility relocation. And with that, if you have any questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Ray, as I understand, there was not a capital improvement project outlined for this in our 5-year plan, is that correct?
Correct.
It was an oversight?
It wasn't, not necessarily, I mean, I'm coming in here towards the last leg of the project. And as I was reviewing the plans with the engineering team, we were just making so many repairs and lowering the water lines throughout different parts of the project that we're touching it so much, it makes sense just to upsize the water line.
Wonderful.
To the correct size and do while we have the road open.
I'm not arguing the need for it, of course. You know, this will more than double the capacity, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great thing.
Yes.
It's just the point is we do the best we can in planning.
Right.
But some things, sometimes they slip up. And I'm glad that we're going to do this. It would be terrible to put the new road in and then have to go in and tear it out.
My thoughts
put in
exactly.
the water line.
My thoughts
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Question about the Heritage Cheeksburg intersection. So what's being done right now, I think it's probably not the final work on that intersection, is that correct?
Correct. Right now, through the developer's agreement on the city, on the side of the city of Euless, they have had the developer put in the right turn deceleration line to kind of help accommodate the additional traffic flow that you're going to get from the apartments. Their overall plan is to finalize the final layout for the signalization of that area.
Yeah.
But there is so much between 3 cities in the county. We're all working on this one together and pitching in. City Euless will maintain and operate the intersection.
Maintain it?
Done, yes.
Yeah, I know I've talked to Commissioner Fickerson. He's indicated that he's willing to go after more money to really upgrade that to what it needs to be. Do you have a comment?
Yes, but the design here is just going to provide for a signal construction that will accommodate future road improvements, but there are no road improvements included.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the ultimate design may require signal poles that have longer mast arms than are currently necessary, but that'll avoid having to move them in the future when the intersection is done from a construction standpoint for traffic movement.
Right. The way the analysis will take place is we'll look at the intersection just at that part, how wide it's going to be on each leg. But there is no traffic plans for construction, road plans for the beyond that intersection.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the funding, Euless has 50,000 from the apartments, but in addition to that, they're putting in 50,000 of their own. So each of the cities are contributing $50,000 in potential construction cost, with Euless contributing the additional 50,000 on top of that. So there's 3 cities and Tarrant County participating.
Right. Very good. Council, have any more questions for Ray or anyone?
Just one more comment on the water main. The 1.3 million is just the estimate. That water main would have to be bid as part of the construction project, and that has not yet taken place. So that's not a contract that's approved. This is just design engineering at this point.
Correct. Correct.
Understand.
Very good. If council has no further questions, I'm going to open the public hearing. Thank you, Ray. Public hearing is open. Do we have any cards?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, we have a card. Very good. Kathy Hadley?
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. Before any of this was approved, I was unable to make the last meeting, and I don't know what was discussed about the final project for Cheeksburger. And before that was approved, I tried to see it on my computer. My computer was down, so I tried to meet with the council member, and I was assured that everything was okay. But I just want my voice to be out there. I'm very concerned about whatever is the decision that is being made about Cheeksburger, but apparently no decision has been made yet.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. That's all the cards we have. Is anyone else would like to speak on this? You're welcome to. Anyone else like to speak? I see no one indicating they would like to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So with that, a motion is in order.
I make a motion to approve Resolution R-19-4356.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the resolution by Councilmember Nakamura, a second by Councilmember Kelly, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Will you open the vote, please, ma'am? And you may show it as soon as you have it. Okay, that motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Thank you. Moving to agenda item number 5. These are items that are not for action. They are monthly financial report and quarterly performance report. We do this monthly so that the council and the public can hear these reports. Mark?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm going to present the monthly financial report for the month of January of 2019 this evening. This does represent 33% of the current fiscal year. Just as a reminder, the fiscal year for the city runs from October 1st through September 30th. So I'm going to go over the operating funds for the city. The first one being the general fund. Current general fund revenues are about $5 million over expenditures, so it's in very good shape. Most of the city's ad valorem property tax is collected around this time of the year. As you can see on the right-hand side of this chart, we're at 83% of those collections. And so by the end of February, we'll most likely be close to 100% of those collections. So that's in good shape. Expenditures are in line with the budget, and want to bring your attention to sales tax. I'm going to talk about that. My next slide is about sales tax, but what you see here on the chart, sales tax is collected 2 months behind. So when sales are made, we don't see that sales tax revenue for 2 months. So what you see here on the sales tax column is actually 25% of the fiscal year, not 33%. So that's why it looks as though it's lower. But the next chart will show you a more in-depth look at sales tax.
Mark, you said this, but it's very hard to see. I suspect some of the audience can't. What those purple bars mean, you said that we're 33% into the year. So the purple bars mean that 33% threshold.
That's right.
Self-sales tax is 25.
Yes, that's right. Yes, so thank you, Mayor. Yes, the purple bar represents 33% of the year. So on this slide is the sales tax revenue for the city. So as you can see, we've received collections for sales that were made in the first 3 months of the fiscal year. On the left-hand side of the chart is the monthly collections. The right-hand side is the cumulative collections. So if you look for purchases from October, November, and December, October was up 1.24% from the prior year. November, as you recall, had a dip, November sales to negative 4.6%. We rebounded to a positive for December sales, which we just collected last week in February at 1.2%. So cumulatively, for the fiscal year, we're at just under, or just around about a 0.5% down compared to this time last year. So basically break even in terms of sales tax. So we were glad to see that we did rebound to a positive month for February.
Yeah, so it's not really unusual to kind of bounce around early in the year. To kind of set this in context too, so last year, fiscal, FY 2018, our overall sales tax revenue growth for the whole year was like 4%.
4%, yes.
Over 2017. And we had budgeted, I think, 1%.
Right.
We'd done that because of the Highway 26 construction. We recognized there was going to be an impact. Did a lot of things on the economic side with businesses to try to help that, and so we think that did have an impact. To set that in context for everyone, so 4% really was great. That was 4 times more than we really expected when we budgeted. During the same fiscal year, 2018, South Lake was 2%, so they increased 2%. So by any measures that I can see, we did well last year, even with Highway 26 under construction.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that'll continue.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, as I mentioned, we were happy to see another positive month, and so hopefully that will continue. You mentioned the quarterly programs, promotional programs that we've done. We are rolling those out again for this fiscal year. So we're continuing those programs throughout the duration of the Highway 26 construction to help out businesses that may be affected by that construction. Moving on to the utility fund. Again, this fund is in great shape. Revenues currently exceed expenditures by $31,000. If you look at the right-hand side, utility fund revenues, so the water and sewer base rates are right where you'd expect them to be, right on target with the budget. Again, the base rates for water and sewer is the amount of revenue that's needed to provide that service to the residents for the city's portion of the bill. The volumetric side of the bill, which you can see just to the right of the base rates, it's down right now. You would expect that. Not a whole lot of water usage, but certainly in the summer months, that red line will go up. And again, those are just pass-through rates that from TRA, our water provider, to the residents for those services. For the year, we are up 258 customers, bringing our total to 10,299. We saw this month a 16% decrease in water usage. Just to kind of give people an idea, I thought this number is unique to share, but our customers used 575 million gallons of water during this period. Last year it was 684 million.
Okay.
So,
and that's because we encourage them not to use during this season right now, so that their sewer rates will be cheaper whenever we do the calculation. So we help the public out by announcing that, and that's why they use less water at this time of the year.
yes, so we're wrapping up the third and final month of what Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Linnemood mentioned was the winter sewer averaging. So we take the average of usage for December, January, and February, and that's used to calculate the sewer volumes for the remainder of the year. So we encourage people to conserve water, as you mentioned, to really create those volumes that are lower, and they can pay that rate throughout the rest of the year.
And so on their bills, the sewer rates are fixed, actually, each month after that's happened, they're fixed. And so on these charts, on the water, the sewer volumetric rate on that expense side, that purple bar is the red, which is the actual current fiscal year, gonna be hitting that purple bar every month because those are fixed, as do the operations side, the left two.
Right.
They're gonna be hitting every month. As you pointed out, the water volumetric varies because that's up to everybody how much they use as their business.
Right.
And they pay for whatever they use.
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just make a point here. Okay. In 2016, we dramatically changed the water and sewer rates. And if we had stayed on the same plan that we were on, we would be operating in the red because the past rates depended more on the volumetric rate than it did the base rate. Yeah. And so this is a situation where we're having a lot of rain, we're not using water, but in fact, our finances are going to hold because we're covering the base rate that the city's cost. So it's dramatic.
That's right. Yes, yes. For the base rates, we charge the customers exactly what it takes us to put on that utility.
Absolutely.
And just one final note on the utility fund. As you're aware, the city approved a new print vendor for utility bills. Those first round of bills are going to be hitting customers this month. Okay. So we are very pleased with that service. They've been very responsive, and it's actually saving the taxpayers $80,000 over a 5-year period of the contract. So
good. Awesome.
So some more relatively good news. From TRA, we received new updates in terms of their future rates. And so for water, we received the initial rates in August of 18, and we just received updated rates for February of 19. So for 19, the rate remains unchanged at $12.13. And again, that's per 1,000 gallons. That's the pass-through rate that just passed through to the customer that we just talked about. But they are reducing future increases. So you can see in this chart, they have adjusted them down slightly. So some pretty good news to pass along to the residents.
Yeah, so that's good that they went down a little bit. I mean, they're still increasing as they
increasing.
always will. And I'll point out, this is what TRA charges us per 1,000 gallons of water.
Right.
This is what gets passed directly through to citizens. So they control that cost by how much they use.
Absolutely.
We have nothing to do with it. We can't control it or do anything about it.
Right. Yep. And then same thing on the wastewater side. TRA reduced their future increase projections slightly, so those pass-through rates will be realized by the residents. Moving on to the debt service fund. The fund's in good shape, and we make payments on two fire engines and a ambulance out of this fund. The way the debt service rate is calculated, we're able to use those funds to help pay for new fire apparatus. And so this year we'll make a fire engine payment of $116,000, $48,000, and then an ambulance payment of $49,000 out of this fund. So we're able to kind of creatively use this fund to help purchase some needed fire equipment. And then lastly, the drainage fund. Again, it's on track with budget. Everything's in good shape with this fund. We are currently going through, as you heard in the work session, a stormwater master plan update. And so that is being paid for out of the drainage fund. You'll continue to see expenditures for that project throughout this year. And I want to also mention that last year we purchased a new street sweeper out of this fund. And you've probably seen that around town. It's branded and it says paid for with drainage fund money. Since August of 18, when that was put into service, it has swept 717 miles of Colleyville streets.
Wow.
So I just wanted to pass that along, that it's being put to good use and paid for out of this fund.
Good.
Very good.
That's all I've got.
Very good. So on the debt service, I always mention this, I forgot to this time. So our our INS rate, which is our tax rate to pay debt service, is very tiny and going down. And our intention is actually to borrow no additional money, so we're actually taking that down to zero.
Right.
And same time I say that, I always have to say that all of our capital improvement plans are all 5-year plans for utilities, roads, everything, are all 5-year cash funded plans. So that's
Correct.
why we can take our INS down to zero.
That's right.
Pay off our debt. Very good. Any questions for Mark?
Good job, Mark.
Thank you.
I know this is out of your wheelhouse. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very detailed.
Ready?
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Adrienne Lothry, Assistant City Manager, here to share with you our first quarterly update for the 2019 fiscal year for our performance metrics. For those that aren't familiar, we do this every quarter, and we show metrics in a couple of different ways, but this is a great way to bring in front of the council and just keep in the forefront of our attention different measures that focus on accountability and help us with our efforts for transparency. And we like to look at these things to see, are we being efficient? Are these areas successful? Are there areas that need some additional attention? So to that end, we have two different types of metrics. You'll notice that some are actual performance measures. Those are areas that we have some control over and set targets for. There are other metrics that we like to track that we call vital statistics. And those types of metrics are ones that we don't always have direct control over, but they're important to keep track of because they inform our decision making. And they're really helpful to keep track of over time and understand, do we need to be making some different business decisions to try to impact those? So the full metrics are, and report are in your agenda packet, but we do like to highlight a couple of those on some different dashboards where we group things by service area. This first dashboard is the first of 4 that I'm going to share with you tonight, and I'll call out just a couple of highlights that I think are interesting or important to note. So this first dashboard is more internal services or strategic services type areas, and one of the areas to note on here that I would like to call out is our medical and pharmacy loss ratio. So you may recall from previous years when we've talked about this, this is really important as we go into the spring because these are the numbers that we will share with the insurance community as we go out to bid for our health insurance rates for our staff. Our target is to have loss ratios that are 85% or below. This fiscal year to date, we're looking at around closer to 94%. So certainly hoping that those come down a little bit over the next several months before we go out to bid so we can receive as favorable a rate renewal as possible. This next dashboard is leisure services. And on this dashboard, we show graphs that demonstrate the continued popularity of our youth sport and recreation classes. Now, since this is, of course, the first quarter of our fiscal year, the numbers here, of course, will continue to rise as we have more activity and particularly as we get into different sports seasons. So they always look a little bit funny that first quarter. And then for the Colleyville Center, we do show two pie charts here that provide a visual representation of which client segments utilize the center and then the revenue related to each of those client segments. It's just interesting to understand those use patterns and where those cost recovery numbers are generated in terms of revenue.
So I don't know if people can actually read these slides or not, but on the Colleyville Center, for instance, one of the thing you're showing clearly is the green on the Colleyville Center utilization. The green is not nonprofits, right?
The green is nonprofits.
Nonprofit, 48% used. And on the other side, where it shows revenue trends, the orange, I guess I'll call it, is non-residents. So
yes.
Clearly non-residents pay more. And
that is
so
true. The rate structure is set up to
most of the center. Okay.
Yes, and because it's intended to be a real community center and not a 100% cost recovery type venture, it's not a private sector venture. There are deeply discounted rates for our local nonprofits as well as discounts for residents. So the third dashboard to share with you this evening is metrics related to development and infrastructure. So you can see across the top there, on that top left-hand chart, our retail and office occupancy rates are well above 90%. Mayor and I think we're actually having a conversation about this not too long ago, that these are some metrics that we can be pretty proud of in terms of our occupancy. Some neighboring communities that, sometimes folks think have a better retail scene than maybe Colleyville does, don't always enjoy these same types of occupancy rates. So we're quite proud of that number.
Yeah. So I'll dimension that for you. So we're at like 94% occupancy rate or something like that. I was in a meeting with 3 of the South Lake City councilmen the other day at an HOA meeting, and they presented this. They're at like 92. I think that's outstanding. So again, how do you measure? So South Lake's a good measure. Other cities around us are a good measure. But I thought that was pretty striking in that we have Highway 26 construction going on down our main corridor, and we're still maintaining a higher occupancy rate. So those are good things.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the other charts on this slide that I'd like to call your attention to is on the top right-hand side. That is related to plan review and inspection timelines. You may recall that we hired a new plans examiner back in November, and the first quarter, even just when that position was filled for a partial quarter of data, had already begun to have some impact. And now that we are a full quarter into our fiscal year 2019, we have almost gotten back to where we want to be. So that's really great news. I fully expect by this time, when we're presenting our second quarter update, that we'll be back above that target number, and that's exactly what we want to see happen. That's what we expected would happen there, and wanted to call your attention to that.
Adrienne, just to talk about that specifically, residential plan reviews for the fiscal year 19 are at 72%, target is 75. That's from 45 last year, so that's right on track.
Yes, marked
and the commercial plan reviews were 51% last year, under 8 days, and now they're at 68%, with a benchmark there of 75%. So that plans reviewer is making a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And bringing us into compliance already.
No, we're very pleased to have her. She's been a great addition to the team. The last item on this side is public works item, and we don't talk about this real often, but we have really low water loss numbers. Our ratio is around 3%, and every community is a little bit different, but sometimes that can be a concern when you talk about, well, is there water being wasted out there? And many communities see numbers 5, 10% even. So that's a number that, again, I think it's important to call out because it certainly has an impact in the way we have to set rates and the amounts that we have to recover.
Yeah, so one thing that means is we have a decent water system because
We
it's
do.
not leaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually when we were doing all the utility work
That's right.
a couple of years ago, talking to a lot of consultants, and they were all surprised at how low our water loss ratios was.
Absolutely. And then the last slide to share with you is related to public safety metrics. So of course, always we like to highlight our police priority 1 was response times are consistently below their 5-minute target. And then at our last meeting, I believe it was Councilmember Dodson had requested that we add a similar chart for fire response times. So we have done so, and that is the chart that you can now see in the bottom right-hand corner of that slide. Again, our fire responses are well below their metric of that 6-minute response, and we're proud of that. But we'll continue to add that metric if that's something the council would like to see in here. There are, of course, a variety of other public safety metrics as well as other departmental metrics included in the full report, but we can continue to adjust the ones that we highlight based on whatever you find the most helpful or interesting. But again, response times continue to do quite well, and I think we keep celebrating all of these saves and you know, folks that our fire department's been able to rescue and bring back and
I'm
save.
truly astounded. I mean, I don't know who has seen the State of the City address. We'll get it, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we'll try to do one for anybody to come, but one of the areas we highlight is there's been 5 life saves from
Yes.
cardiac arrest this last year, which is pretty phenomenal.
It's a powerful message to be able
Very
to
powerful
say.
message. That's because we got great guys and very quick response, and
Yes.
they know what to do.
Absolutely.
But very, very rare.
Adrian, and just a quick question.
Sure.
It looks to me like we're holding well below those numbers. I wonder if there's any thought in reducing the target?
Very valid question. So every year in the springtime, we go back and look, and we ask our departments to update their performance metrics. I think with having a new fire chief on board, it's a perfect time for him to take a look and make some decisions as to whether there's any metrics he would like to see adjusted, as well as their targets. So certainly that will be something that's part of conversations.
Especially since we're looking back 5 years, and for the police, the highest average is less than 4 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, less than 4 minutes, so, I don't know.
No, good question.
Maybe going to 5, I guess that's where we are, maybe 5, but 4.5 might be good.
Yeah, on
Okay.
the police side, it's 5, and I think on fire it was 6, but certainly
6,
worth
yeah.
looking at.
Mhm. Good, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Adrian, for bringing those numbers to us. I really appreciate that. Got to say that I'm constantly amazed by the professionalism and dedication of our police and fire.
We have some wonderful people on our teams.
Looking at the ambulance billing, kind of, I always try to comment on this. So we added the ambulance this year. We have 3 now. And one reason we did that so that when our residents call, they're going to now very highly likely see a Colleyville ambulance. That's important because we do not bill them for that.
That's
When
correct.
we have to go out for mutual aid and pick up other cities to send an ambulance, then our citizens have to pay for that. So that's
Yes, we do not
important.
balance bill beyond what their insurance covers.
Right. Okay, any other questions or comments for Adrian?
Do we have 2 ambulances or 3? We had
We have 2.
Yeah, did I say?
We added the new one
We have
last
two.
year.
Thank you.
We have 2.
We had 2.
Okay.
My mistake.
Sorry about that.
Any other questions for Adrian?
No.
Thanks. Did a good job. All right, so there's no action on that. That's for public information, our information only. So now we'll move to agenda item 6A. So this is a second reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2076, which is a consideration of special use permit for food packaging and manufacturing on Lot 8R, Block 1 of the Colleyville Industrial Park, located at 1904 Industrial Boulevard, Suite 103, and that was case ZC 18-036. So for the audience, this is second reading, so on ordinances, we have 2 readings and have public hearings and take action on the second, so we will take action on this one. Ben?
Thank you. Ben Briner, Director of Community Development. As you stated, this is a special use permit request for food packaging and manufacturing at 1904 Industrial Boulevard. It will be specifically for Suite 103. Here's an aerial map of the site. The current zoning is our light manufacturing district. And in this district, this type of use does require the special use permit approval. It is part of the Colleyville Boulevard corridor, which is where we expect to see our commercial activity to happen. So it does match for that designation. As a reminder, this is a specialty cookie store, or I suppose a specialty cookie shop, but primarily for other locations. So they will do the actual mixing and baking, but then the packaging, and then it'll then be either shipped or delivered to those other locations. According to the statement of planning objectives, the business currently sells their product with Chip and Joanna's Magnolia Table and Silo's Bakery, with Neiman Marcus and Central Market, and they have other clients to include Nadamu Dairy-Free Ice Cream, Watermark Church, Bent Tree Church, and the South Lake Carroll School District. So they do a lot of business with well-known companies, as well as some local entities as well. They are proposing to move from Irving to Colleyville. As part of the SUP, we do have the language itself. The hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They will be required a minimum of 5 spaces. In looking at the site, there is sufficient parking for their use. And then our standard language with expiration for change of use, change of ownership, or expiration of their certificate of occupancy. And then all other requirements of the Land Development Code shall be met. So again, it will be Suite 103 in that building. Again, it's just for the mixing and baking, packaging, and delivery, primarily for this use. Just a picture of the suite. We did send our notices out to all properties within 500 feet, as well as HOAs within 1,000 feet. We did not get any response back one way or the other for this. And staff does recommend approval of the item, and this also did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they also recommend approval with a unanimous vote, 7-0.
Okay.
I can answer any questions.
Have any question for Ben?
No, sir.
Nope. None? Wow, you're getting off easy. Then, well, if there's no questions, I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. Then, public hearing is open. Do we have any cards? Have no cards, you may speak. Come on up. State your name and address, please, sir.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Got my card yet, or you want?
Yeah, we'll take the card to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
And you'll have to state your name and address on record too as well.
Yeah.
City
Yeah.
manager.
Thank you.
Russ Whittemire, live at 2010 Francis Drive, Colleyville, Texas, and within the big circle that was drawn there, I live. I wasn't able to make it to the other meeting. I was out of town, but certainly wanted to be here for this. And what I haven't heard is maybe some of the things that are important to me as somebody that lives there and is going to be there during the day and during those hours is what kind of impact is that going to have on my personal life, my family life. And, you know, I'm familiar with other industries that are maybe similar to this where smells from the processing kind of linger through. I'm not sure about the noise or what ordinances. I'm not sure what controls we have on those. So I'm interested in finding out with this change and with this special permit, are there going to be additional odors, additional smells, additional noise? I'm not sure what controls we have over that or what actions we could take if all of a sudden I'm smelling, you know, sugar and you know, brown sugar filtering through the air from 7 to 3 every day. So I'm interested in that, finding out more about that.
All right. Very good. We'll address it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Have no other cards. You may. You're the applicant? Yeah.
Jill Marks, owner of Cookies Crimson Crest.
You do have a sword.
I do. To address the gentleman, I'm currently working in a 3-story office complex, and its occupancy is 100%. The space, I'm in the 2nd floor. There's a floor above us and below. So I've had no complaints. We have one oven, and I don't have a forklift or anything like that. I have a gentleman that picks up my boxes, which are 16 by 8 by 6, very small corrugated boxes. The only reason I say that, it gives you an idea how small the business really is. I have great clients, but it's small.
Yeah.
So I'm welcome to, I want you to be comfortable, right? I don't want anyone, but we do just have one oven, and I've never received a complaint in this office building in Irving about drifting,
Smells.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any questions?
Let me close the public hearing, and then we'll ask you back. The reason I'm doing that is during public hearings, we listen.
Okay.
That's kind of the technicality of it, but we will get through that.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Okay, yeah. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I see no one else wishing to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing.
Before she goes to sit down, I do have a question.
Yeah, so don't sit down yet, ma'am. I'm gonna, come on back. I'm gonna close public hearing closed. Now, we're free to do whatever we want to do. So, Mayor Pro Tem asked a
I was just
question.
curious, how many deliveries per day do you think you'll have?
I had no deliveries today. Chip and Joanna's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Neiman Marcus is Thursday, Friday. So it's sporadic. The gentleman, I'm sorry?
Is it one truck, two trucks?
It's not a truck, it's a car.
Oh, it's a car.
It's contract labor.
Okay,
And he's,
okay.
yeah, he drives a Hyundai.
All right.
And, so it's, again, small but mighty, I would
Okay.
say.
Oh, well, that's the
Yeah.
American dream.
Yeah, it is. It's, I started baking for my kids, and people started requesting it. And so one thing, led to another, and it's just been great.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Great.
I do have one question. I noticed in your letter to the city that there was a previous tenant, Truly Foods, and they were
Yes.
doing basically the same type of operation.
Yes.
Do you know when they ceased operations there?
I don't. In fact, it was a girl that I was working out with had said, hey, she moved. You might want to check. So I called her, and sure enough, they left. I don't have those dates.
The reason I asked was
Yeah.
primarily to
Oh, yeah,
your
that's
neighbors.
good.
that-
So
that
Ben,
there-
can I ask
there
a
was
question?
that kind
There was
of
a
business
Yeah.
there.
She had told me, she said it's still open. So it still had their sign on there.
Yeah,
So-
my question was just to give the
Oh,
the
yeah.
context to the
That's-
neighbors
that's a
that
good point.
there was an existing business
Yeah.
just like yours
That's
there. So I just wanted to do that contrast.
Right, no, so that's a question for Ben. Ben, come up, please, sir. Thank you, I appreciate it. So I was gonna, true, there was a business, food processing, we don't remember the times and dates. Could you
Yeah, so
tell me?
that was approved in 2016, and, or maybe it was very early 17.
Yeah.
The one main difference with that is that they did not have an oven. They didn't bake any of their product,
Okay.
but they did
Assembled.
assemble. But a lot of it was maybe, because it included like nuts and some other ingredients that they might have had to grind a little bit
Yeah.
and then put it together. It was mainly a kind of a health snack type
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
The one thing they did not do, though, is bake.
Okay.
And this will, now, part of her process as she's going through now is she will be installing a commercial hood.
Mhm.
I'm sure that will help. It doesn't eliminate all of the odors, but it does help.
Yeah, okay,
She has another.
sorry, I didn't know I had another question. I'm gonna run you back and forth a lot.
She has a response.
Ben,
Oh,
there
okay.
is no commercial hood putting in. It's a cool-to-touch oven, self-ventilated,
Okay,
and it's literally 4 racks, 5 racks, and no ventilation. I went through the fire marshal to see if I would need anything extra, and he said no. It met all the specs, so no hoods or extra ventilation is needed with this model.
okay,
It's considered cool-to-touch,
okay,
and
Oh, cool.
very good. So the other question the gentleman asked was, what are the city ordinances on noise and whatnot? So he asked it, we'll try to answer that.
So we do have a noise ordinance. It's primarily restrictive during the overnight hours. During the day, we allow quite a bit of noise, but cannot create a nuisance no matter what, even during the day.
Yeah.
Based on what we just heard, I don't know that it would come close to meeting a violation for noise. As far as the smells, it's one of those where we would have to go out and observe to see if it's overpowering, and then try and deal with it at that point. But we don't, I guess smell is a much harder thing to, I mean, you'll know when it's a nuisance when you get there and you smell it. Yeah.
One of the things, with it being a special use permit, you could place conditions on those types of things. I think without it being vented, though, that does diminish the likelihood that there'll be any type of odors. But you could, as a condition of a special use, identify those types of concerns. You'd have to, though, present some type of criteria by which you'd want to measure where a violation occurred. Whereas with the nuisance and noise, it's usually pretty straightforward. It's a decibel meter.
Sure.
Right.
But
I don't know how to do that.
you'd say as one of the conditions of the special use that it wasn't an overwhelming nuisance to the neighbors as it relates to odors. Now, you'd have to later define through some type of process, or the courts, what is onerous, but you could include that in that condition.
Ma'am, I hate to keep asking you to come up, but would you?
Maybe you
Just sit on the front row.
And get your exercise. Oh, so with your experience of being in that multiple floor building and no complaints, and you're right in the middle of it.
Yes.
Have any objection to us adding to this SUP a statement like he said?
Not at all.
Okay.
And especially if it'll make the gentleman more
All right.
comfortable.
You good with that? Very good. Thank you.
Curious where his house is in relation to Suite 101.
But you show the view, yeah, so I don't know which house is yours.
Are we going to be neighbors?
Yeah, you look, if you look where the rectangle is.
Yep.
Rectangle, and you look at the very top of it,
Uh-huh.
and you go straight across to 2010.
Can you?
Okay. Can you make that out?
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Okay, so we'll add that, so whoever, second reading, so we'll make a motion in a minute, so whoever chooses to make the motion, if you move to approve, if you'd add that criteria into it.
And the specific criteria, how was it stated?
Say it again.
Conditioned upon the use not creating a nuisance for the neighbors as it relates to odors.
Okay, so are we ready?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll move to approve ordinance 190-19-2076 with the clause that it not create a nuisance related to odors for the neighbors.
Right.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve with the additional language that was so stated by Councilmember Wheat, second by Councilmember Rigney. All right, well, would you open the vote, please? You may show it. So that motion's approved, therefore the special use permit is approved. Thank you all very much. All right, so we will now move to agenda item 6B, which is also a second reading and public hearing, so we will also take action on this, and this is of ordinance O-19-2077. Consideration of a special use permit for warehouse and distribution facilities on Lot 1R1A, Block 1 of the West Industrial Edition, located at 6705 Colleyville Boulevard, and that was case ZC18-037.
Great, thank you. This is another special use permit, this one for warehouse and distribution facilities. This is for the auto recambi use. They have actually purchased the building next to their primary location, which is the auto glass building, and they are proposing to use a portion of this building for their storage and distribution area. And that use does require a special use permit approval. So here's an aerial photo of the site. Their primary location is at 6707, and so again, they purchased this building for additional space for their business. It is also zoned light manufacturing, and is also within the Colleyville Boulevard corridor area.
Okay.
So again, this is for it's primarily an auto parts, but the vast majority of it is through mail order, and they have expanded and they need more space for their part storage and distribution, so they've purchased this building to do so. As part of the ordinance for the special use permit, we've identified that no storage of parts or containers will be allowed outside the building. Letter C, facade improvements shall be made prior to certificate of occupancy. You've kind of alluded to that with the item that we delayed for after this, which must be approved by the city manager's office and the city council. And also our standard language for expiration upon abandonment of the business or change in use or change in ownership, as well as complying with the land development code. We did have a small discussion about letter F. I reread it again. I think it was redundant, and so I meant to change that in your packet. I don't know that that actually came through, but in my opinion, I think we can strike F altogether. But I guess if you guys feel differently, we can have a greater conversation on that.
Yeah.
So just some exhibits. These are the two buildings in question. Again, they are going through the facade improvement grant program, and they are desiring to make some much needed improvements to both of the buildings. And so part of this approval, as stated, will be contingent on getting those plans approved by the city council. And this is a photo of the existing building, so you can see that the improvements will make a pretty big difference.
Yep.
We did send our notices out to all properties within 500 feet, as well as HOAs within 1,000 feet, and we did not receive any response back for this item. Staff does recommend approval, and did also go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they also recommend approval. They added some clarification as far as the facade improvements, which we see already included into the language for the SUP ordinance, and they voted in favor 7-0.
Okay. Very good. Council have any questions or comments? To Ben? You're really getting off easy tonight.
We just drilled him last week.
Yeah, we got it really good last week. I'd just like to say I'm super excited that these guys are here. Another, a success story that started in the garage and growing like it is right now. That's the American story. And man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for choosing Colleyville. I appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Yeah. You may come up and you're the applicant. And in fact, I wanted to hear from you. He said some great things last time. Will you say them again?
Ramsey Gillespie, 3317 Stonecrest Drive, Grapevine, Texas. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I said I picked the wrong city to move to, which is Grapevine.
Yeah.
I do all my business here, but I think I picked the right city to do business in. I mean, listening to what you're doing for the long-term plan, the fact that occupancy rates on Colleyville Boulevard in a city that's in turmoil, logistically, are up. This is awesome. I mean, I'm ecstatic to be a part of this. My business partner who owns half of our business, Chab, is not here. He's taking care of his son. He's an immigrant. I mean, he moved here to go to college 30 years ago. And this is the American dream. This is what when I was going to school and I wanted to, get a real job, this is what we wanted to do. It's exciting to be in a place where y'all make this happen. I mean, you guys are allowing us to do the things that we think are fun and, hopefully profitable. And I don't know what to say. I'm just really happy to be here. I really am.
We're happy you're here.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Glad you're here. Thanks.
Sure are.
Okay, if the council has no more comments, I need to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Have any cards? I have no cards. Anyone wish to speak on this item, you're welcome to. I see no one indicating they would like to speak, so if I don't see anybody, I'm going to close the public hearing. So public hearing is closed. So a motion is in order.
I move we accept the ordinance O-19-2077.
I'll second.
You have a motion to approve by Councilmember Dodson, a second by Councilmember Nakamura. So let me clarify the motion. So Ben, in your briefing, I don't have the ordinance and open in front of me. You suggested striking 1. Is that already out?
Section 4F, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking on the PDF version, and it did not look like it came through to be stricken out.
Okay, so on the PDF in here.
It's in the ordinance that we have in our packets.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay, so all I was going to say is, would
Yeah, we could change it.
you'll accept that
Absolutely.
change? Second, would you accept that change that
But not
strike?
either way. Yeah, that's fine.
Ms. Nakamura?
You accept that change to striking it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so the ordinance is understood to include that striking, and now would you open a vote? You may show it. Get it? Okay, the motion's approved, therefore the ordinance is approved. Now, we're going to go back to agenda item 2, because this is an executive session item, and we have a resolution out of that, so let me read the resolution, and we'll have a public hearing again on this and before we vote on it. So Resolution R-19-4355, a resolution approving council action regarding executive session items at the regular city council meeting of February the 19th, 2019. Whereas following discussion in executive session and in full accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, the city council determines that the following action is in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Now therefore be it resolved by the city council of the city of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the city council hereby approves and authorizes the city manager to execute the Economic Development Incentive Agreement attached hereto as Exhibit A with Lanny Properties LLC, providing for a matching improvement grant in an amount not to exceed $45,000 for exterior building improvements, and it is so resolved. Adrian, you want to speak to us?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you mentioned, this is an application for a grant incentive to the city on behalf of Otto Ricambi, and we've talked about them a bit tonight, but a little bit of the interesting facts that I find really intriguing that we haven't mentioned tonight, I want to add out there for those that are listening or haven't heard the story before. But Otto Ricambi, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, is a Colleyville-based business, grew out of their garage, but it's a really niche business. They specialize in one vehicle. It's the Fiat 124 Spider convertible, and they're actually the largest distributor of classic Fiat parts in the U.S. and the second largest in the world. That's pretty phenomenal, right here in Colleyville. So just have to brag on them a little bit. That's a really neat statistic that I don't know if most folks appreciate or are aware of. So they have just continued to see double-digit growth and continue to grow, and we're so proud of them. And even more exciting is that they really share the vision of the city for the overall 26 corridor. They want to see that area improve, and as we go through the roadway reconstruction project and then come behind that with beautification, they just really share that vision and want their building that they at least have, the piece of land that they have control over, they want to make that look and reflect that overall Colleyville quality that we're all striving for and want the corridor to reflect. So to that extent, they have put together, Mark, thanks, you read my mind in flipping back to that rendering of the kind of before and after of what it looks like today and what they intend for it to look like after the facade improvements. You can see what the after is there in that bottom segment. Really beautiful renovations just to bring a fresh and modern look to the outside of their buildings. And the total cost of the renovations they have planned is estimated at about $173,000. So it's a pretty substantial investment on their part to beautify that area and to really take the lead. There are some other folks down there at that end of the corridor that have made some similar improvements, and so they're really trying to take the lead and transform that area of the corridor. To assist with that, they've applied to the city for a $45,000 grant, so a small portion of the overall renovation and facade improvement project, and that is to cover actually the improvements to both buildings. So again, excited about that. They've come forward and requested that assistance from the city, and Again, just for those that aren't familiar, the city does have a facade improvement incentive program out there. We call it the BEST program, business enhancements to support transformation. So for those businesses that are looking to make similar improvements to their building facades, please check out that program information out on our website, or feel free to speak to any one of us. We'd love to speak with you. But Auto Ricambie is a great example of someone coming forward with the right vision, and we're pleased to bring this application forward to the council.
Yeah, I wish you could get that picture up.
Here, I'll put it on the.
It's a nice zoomed-in version.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Go a little bit.
It's not focusing. There it is.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, it's easier, better to see the difference.
I wonder what that car is in front of the.
Yeah, that's
I
the
can only
it.
imagine.
That doesn't look like a spider.
Looks like a Fiat to me.
Yeah. Compared to, show that one shot, the next one.
Go back now, Mark, show the other one now.
Yeah.
When you have the next slide. There you go.
There it
That's it. That's what it looks like today. One of them, the other building doesn't show. What we just showed you is what it's going to look like in the future. So it's going to be quite an improvement.
We're excited, but
And I love what you said last time when we were talking about this, because you said in that area you really want it to look good to kind of match what we're trying to do on Colleyville. And this kind of will be the first one in that area. So hopefully others will spread. But glad you're glad you're doing that. Thank you very much. Council have any questions or comments?
Nope, just excited.
I'm just glad he sees the vision, especially with the
Yeah.
improvements we're going to do on 26 once they're through. This is the first building of many that we're hoping people will take advantage of our new program that
Best
we got out
program,
there.
yeah.
And once they do, Colleyville Boulevard is going to look beautiful. You guys, thank you for looking through that vision. We appreciate that very much.
Right, I agree with Bobby, and the thing of it is you guys don't even have people that come to your door and you're doing this, and I mean, well, you do, exactly, and we'll stop by and see you. Yeah, we'll get some of those cookies.
Maybe she'll make a Fiat cookie.
There. Because it's very exciting and we appreciate you leading leading the pack on this, as we've had some other calls, and we look forward to it being a real exciting time when it's done. And again, thank you very much.
Okay, if there's no other comments, motion is in order.
Mayor, I'll just give.
Mayor.
for-
Did I do a public hearing?
Oh.
No.
No, I didn't.
Public
I got to do a
hearing,
public
please.
hearing. Public hearing is open.
No cards.
I have no cards. Anybody wish to speak on this item? See no one indicating they want to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing if no one does, and they haven't, so the public hearing is closed now.
Mayor, I would like to request an approval of R-19-4355.
It's an O dash. Just,
Or-
Oh, nine.
This is a resolution R.
oh, you went to the pictures on the other, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll second it. Apologies.
Okay, have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood, a second by Councilmember Wheat.
It does have that on that one.
We all good on the motion? Would you open the vote, please?
I was like, what is that sound, please?
And you may show it whenever it's ready. And that motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved.
Good.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to agenda item 7A. 7A is a resolution, if I can get to it. And this is Resolution R-19-4357, a resolution approving City Council support of specific 86th state legislature priorities, whereas the Colleyville City Council is dedicated to enhancing and preserving a high quality of life community for the citizens of Colleyville, and whereas it is important for the state's elected officials to understand the needs of the citizens of Texas, and whereas the 86th legislature has convened to consider and enact legislation that will affect all Texans, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the Colleyville City Council supports the legislative priorities as attached in Exhibit A. Section 2, that the Colleyville City Council urges the Texas Legislature to approve legislation consistent with the attached Exhibit A, and it is so resolved. So I'm going to read the attachment, and since we did not build it into the resolution, and it's kind of long, but I'm going to read the whole thing because I think it's important. So this is Exhibit A. And so state legislative priorities for the 86th legislature is broken into several components. One is municipal powers. It's on the screen. Preserve municipal authority to manage and maintain public rights of way, including the right to seek adequate compensation for their use. Property tax reduction. Support reducing state cap on M&O revenue increases by city, county, and school districts. Support local control by allowing taxing authorities to exceed state revenue cap with a majority vote of citizens. Support any citizen-approved tax increase where above state cap, having no restrictions on its use. I'm going to come back and talk more about those in just a second. Transparency, ethics, support uniform application of the public information and open meetings laws at every level of government, including state legislative and executive branches. Support legislation that simplifies the notice of tax rates to the public. Support legislation that supports expansion of public notice requirements to allow for use of electronic internet and/or social media. Support requiring disclosure and bond elections of the total cost of bonds at maturity, including interest estimates. Public school funding, next category. Support eliminating or at a minimum stopping the growth of Robin Hood recapture dollars for high property value school districts, which we are one. Support modifying the Robin Hood parameters that define the high property value school districts to bring them into more realistic alignment with current property values. The current recapture system must be overhauled to allow the community to keep local tax dollars. Support an increase in statewide funding for public education to meet the needs of all student populations. For example, providing additional funds to increase Title I funding to better fund schools to provide for the large influx of non-English speaking students and for socially economically disadvantaged students. Support providing taxpayer a transparent accounting of how property tax is collected for public education or allocated by state and local entities. In addition, the state should allow districts the ability to note on tax statements the amount being sent to the state as recapture. Next category, conservative fiscal management. Support eliminating the retroactive requirement of a city wishes to reinstate a COLA for their employees' TMRS benefits. I'll explain that in a minute. Support the requirement for commercial property sales to be reported to appraisal districts to drive more equitable tax valuations. Support legislation that would close the dark box loophole being used by some large retailers to artificially devalue commercial properties for tax purposes. Next category, economic development. Support legislation that would continue, maintain, protect, and or enhance the utilization of state and local funds for economic development, including the Texas Enterprise Fund, tax increment financing, and Chapter 380. Support continuation of the hotel occupancy tax for tourism marketing. Infrastructure. Support legislation that discontinues diversion of transportation revenue to non-transportation purposes. Public safety. Support legislation that provides grant funding and or resources to protect local law enforcement officers and enhance their ability to serve. Environment. Support legislation that improves access and funding available to expand or enhance Colleyville's existing parks and recreation opportunities. So that's all a mouthful. So as you all know, the 86th legislature is in session, and it's kind of interesting. They only are in session every 2 years. So, and they're only in session like through May, unless they go into emergency session. After that, the governor can call. So there's a lot on their plate. The governor, Abbott, has focused, as well as the Senate and House. They have all teamed up to push forward tax reduction legislation. So the governor declared that as emergency action, which allows it to move through quickly, and they're pretty much focusing on that right now. That includes multiple components. So the property tax reduction support items I read and the public school funding actions I read, Connor, are all included in that. It's a very important legislation from my perspective. This is the year that needs to happen, especially on the school funding side. Robin Hood needs to be adjusted. In fact, I proposed it just go away. It's the recapture funding for this past year was $2.1 billion. So for $2.1 billion, it could go away effectively. They have a approach that will, in the legislation proposed, there's a Senate Bill 2 and a House Bill 2. They're identical. It's come out of the Senate committee at this point, and it's identical bill, and that was done to make it move quickly. And so we chose not to call the bills out in here because as the bills go through legislature cycle, they morph all over the place. And so our approach was to kind of call out the items that are important, that match our philosophy in Colleyville, which is, by the way, we work for you, the citizens, literally. And tax money is your money, not some government bureaucracy money. And I think you can see in our fiscal policies how we do the budget and how we set tax rate. That's how we treat it. And for instance, this year, in our budget, look at our budget, the revenue in our budget, which drives everything for fiscal year 2019, is identical to the revenue in our budget for 2018. That's pretty unusual. Now, you set tax rates based on what revenue you need to support your budget, so that budget number is critical. So we made it the same, and so we're blessed in this whole region that our property values have gone up to the clip of about 8% a year for the last several years. That means we are very economically viable in this area, and we're blessed because of that. A lot of people will complain that, well, my house value has gone up, it's driving my taxes up. And I always tell them, well, not quite the right way to look at it. I think property values going up is a good thing because we're being successful as a whole. And it's up to us, the elected officials. We're the ones, literally, not just us, but elected officials set tax rate, and the revenue to the city is the property value times the tax rate. So if the tax rate goes up, the property value goes up 8%, completely within our power to set the tax rate lower to offset that property value increase. So it's not TAD's fault. I mean, TAD can do many things better, but it's not their fault that property bills, tax bills that we all pay are going up. It's those tax rates is what's important. So this year, property values went up 8%. We lowered the tax rate to completely offset that, so our revenue is literally the same. So to you, the citizen, your tax bill that you personally pay from Colleyville should be very close to what it was last year. Now, your city tax bill is only 14% of your total tax bill. So the county, the hospital district, the Tarrant County Junior College District, the school district, all have their own taxes in your total bill. You can look at the breakout. And so overall, your tax bill may go up, but it's not because of Colleyville taxes. That's important. That philosophy is important. Now, on the school side, school taxes are about 60% of your total tax bill. That's not unusual. Most cities are that way. And the complaint everybody has is how that works needs to change. That's why we had these statements about school funding. Robin Hood recaptures a problem because you pay, in fact, literally, if Robin Hood recapture were to go to zero tomorrow, literally, your school tax bill could go down 26%, and the school would still get the same money they get today. So they're not hurt, but because a lot of your tax money is getting sent to other parts of the state, other schools in the state, so you're funding them. And it's out of whack. It's been there, it hadn't been adjusted, it's just got to change. I think this is the year it will change, because there's a lot of intent and support in Austin to make that happen. And I think one thing that's driving that, Robin Hood recapture is going up exponentially. The parameters are so off, it's going up exponentially. So more and more school districts are getting lumped into that on an exponential basis. It cannot continue. And so I think that's what's going on. So up in the property tax reduction, put that one up there if you would, go back. Yeah. So this is a little interesting. So we're supporting, the legislation was originally written to limit the revenue in your tax rate. There are two pieces: M&O, which is maintenance and operations, and INS, which is interest in sinking funds. So literally, what we're dealing with is we set both of those tax rates. You only see the total. The INS part of it, interest in sinking fund part, is what funds debt. So when we borrow money through bond issues, we use that tax rate, part of the tax rate, to make sure we have the money to pay off those bonds. That's why we're in the city, we're driving that to zero. We're not intending to borrow more money, not that we won't at some point in the future, if there's a good strategic reason for it. But right now, we're blessed that we don't need to, and we're not going to. So that INS is going to zero. And I know Mark is the guy, but Adrian, I don't remember. Our INS number is very small, very small. And so M&O is what maintenance and operations is the part of the tax revenue we get from property taxes that run everything. And so currently there's an 8% tax on that by the state. They're proposing to lower that to 2.5%. And it was on revenue. In fact, reducing state cap. We don't say how much because we fully expect that's going to evolve a little bit in the legislature. On M&O revenue, the governor's office invited me down on 3 occasions. Jerry went with me before the bills came out to talk to them about listening to what their proposals were and make recommendations. We did make some recommendations. In fact, they accepted some of them and changed it. But they've since, I talked to them today, they've changed that revenue to M&O tax rate, which I think is I would prefer it to be revenue. I can explain why and privately. Nonetheless, this supports that. And then if an entity goes over the 2.5% cap, then it gives the citizen, in fact, this is an automatic now, they've changed it to be automatic in the legislation, that if any entity goes over the 2.5% rate increase, then there's automatically a vote of the citizens to decide, is that okay or not? So literally, it puts it in your hands. And we worded this the way we did on purpose. This says support local control by allowing taxing authority to exceed state revenue cap with a majority vote of the citizens. It says majority vote, because when they originally proposed it, they wanted a 60% vote. We said, no, that's not good. Make it majority. They did. And then they went on ahead and one of the 3 gentlemen, there was a county judge and us and another mayor in these meetings, and the judge said, hey, make it automatic election, and they did. But this is kind of interesting to me. I'm the only mayor, and I think we're the only council in this whole area that supports this, which is interesting to me. And a lot of the talk, in fact, our county judge, Whitley, really makes a big deal about this local control, saying, well, the state's trying to take local control away. My statement is, local control by definition is where you, the citizens, make the call.
That's right.
Literally. So to me, this puts local control in place. So that's why we support this. Then on the school side, we're in agreement with the school. I mean, we literally took some of the wording out of their legislative agenda priorities and used them. They have a lot more detail, but I've talked to Dr. Ryan early on, said, hey, we want to do whatever we can to support that, and we are. And we will continue to. I'll be back in Austin, talk about this. And so that's a little bit of explanation. Long-winded, I apologize, but I think it's important right now.
It's critical.
Anybody else have any comments or things to say?
No, thank you very much, Mayor, for explaining that, because a lot of people out there don't really understand exactly, and I think you just took a few minutes to educate a lot of people, very basic, so I appreciate you doing that.
Surely.
To me, calling it a cap also is somewhat misleading. In fact, it's a threshold.
Threshold, yeah.
It is not a cap.
Yeah.
And I think people get very confused when it's called a cap, because it is not a cap. The city can elect, can vote, or the citizens can vote, whatever they want to vote.
Yeah, true.
So that's a very important point.
Yeah, so there's a lot of politics going on, as usual. But nonetheless, that's okay. It's the way the system works, so we have to be engaged. I did want to say one other thing I forgot to say. So we didn't do this lightly, by the way. Before we talked to the governor's staff that wrote the legislation in support, we took our numbers. I think Adrian did this. We went back to 2010 at least. We took our actual numbers and our budgets for all those years, applied all of these conditions to them just to ensure that it wouldn't hurt Colleyville, and it did not. In fact, with what they've done now, we are well under those caps, Right. So it doesn't hurt us at all. I really think it'll hurt few people. You won't hear that publicly, but that's my belief. Nonetheless, I just wanted you to know we did our homework. We didn't just do this lightly. We were very serious and data-driven in how we made these decisions. So now I need to open the public hearing if there's no more comments. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. I have no cards. You may speak, Kathy.
Kathy Headley, 204 Timberline Drive North, represent myself. I totally support this, and I get my feathers all ruffled up whenever I hear about Robin Hood, because as a school teacher, taught in West Texas and then Far East Texas, the children don't see the money. Teachers don't see the money. The fat cats get fatter with the money, and it's all a farce, in my humble opinion, as a school teacher who's worked in this. Anyway, but I do support everything that is up there, and Mayor, thank you very much for explaining this.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Kathleen Hennessy, 5013 Stonebridge Drive in Colleyville. I've been asked to bring up two things, and the one I want to bring is the education issue I'll talk about now. Okay. The children, I've been working with New Texans and the problems that the children have, and I've been working with them. They have linguistic problems, and they have behavioral and custom problems that are it takes them out of balance. They're used to different holidays. They're used to different mannerisms. They're different gestures even. And from what I have seen, local schools do not take that into consideration. It's not just the academics issues that we need to confront. And a lot of money has to be spent on bringing them in and culturalizing these children. And just throwing them into a class of 20 or 25 children is not the way for them to make a smooth transition into American life. But there are a lot of new immigrants that come every year, and sometimes they live in pretty horrible conditions at first. A few years ago, I was working with a group of immigrants from Guatemala, and there were 7 families in a 1-bedroom apartment. This was not here, it was in Richardson, but they had nothing to eat. They had no, and this was because of the Thanksgiving vacation, these children, and this long term, these children were going to have nothing to eat for something like 7 or 8 days. And nobody had a budget for that. Nobody followed up on it. So I went down to the local supermarket and bought a couple of turkeys and all the trimmings, and at least they had a good Thanksgiving. But we need to pay a lot more attention to these new members of our community. Being the granddaughter of some immigrants from Europe, they were fleeing famine. And they came here and made life for themselves and obviously for their children and grandchildren. And I listened to their stories of what they went through as immigrants. And I hope that the people who come to us now get a lot less difficult entrance into our society than they are getting right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? I see no one else indicating they wish to speak, so if I don't see anybody, I'm going to close the public hearing. So the public hearing is closed. So can I have further discussion, or a motion is in order?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R-19-4357.
I second the motion.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Wheat, a second by Councilmember Dodson. So if there's no further discussion, would you open the vote, please? And you may show it whenever it's ready. That motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Thank you all. Okay, we'll now move to agenda item 8A. So this is reading and public hearing of ordinance O-18-2056. There will be action on this tonight.
Excuse me, Mayor. May I request a brief recess?
Oh, yes.
Sorry. I know this is going to be long, probably.
Okay.
May I request a brief recess?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Sure. So we're going to recess. We'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes. Thanks for coming.
My check that way.
Go down to,
I don't know, my whole
probably, heard the name. I must have saw it at some. It's dead center between Austin and,
kind of out there defending this.
no, it's dead center between San Antonio and probably 30 miles west. Hello? Good to see you. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. I know. You've been busy. Yeah, we finally got that thing straightened out. Jerry's kept us in line. Not me. Thanks.
They turned out to be some solar, you know, we're seeing outcomes about fiber. That saw mine.
Right.
We talked about
I don't worry about it. What, the impression I was yeah, he took it, and then he saw Chairman Benton.
Let's talk about it.
Noticed this week or next week. Benton Fort Worth all day long.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like that.
And then talking about fiber optics.
Thank you. It's good to hear that. Don't stay all night.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, then please do.
No, we ran against each other.
Most people don't stay because they think it's interesting. So I said, don't stay all night. He said, this is interesting. I said, well, then please stay.
Kathy, I saw the movie this weekend. I gave my energy pills.
No, we're all glad you did. Thanks.
Are you? I'm like,
We took the boys.
Okay.
Or I took the boys. It was actually pretty good.
What did you recommend the other one? Was the show?
The Quincy Method.
Do we need to debate this? It takes what it takes. Look at these boots. Look at these boots. You think this is a 5-minute operation?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Who's gonna unzip?
Dang it, y'all are making me work.
Ben, you're on a roll.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're on a roll.
Crossing my fingers.
Okay, I've seen it first.
Take the whole bag out of me.
I don't know what I was thinking.
No, if I see it, I'm like, oh my god.
I'm glad
You
you
look at
did.
me, I'm like, you're like 5 or 10. I was like,
Hey, this is, you know,
I know our class, but
Yeah.
30 in a paper, please. Just kidding.
My age is a real big accomplishment to outlast somebody.
Are you going Saturday? 'Cause we're gonna have to bring our, bring your,
Bring your cowbell.
you guys got cowbells and everything for the performance? Dance with the Stars.
This weekend.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a weekend.
You got all that stuff or whatever, we have to bring our own.
Oh.
I went to Party City and just bought a bunch
Oh, you
of
got a
stuff.
bunch of stuff?
Oh, I didn't even know. I'm glad you
I don't think I have any of that. I'm not sure.
We can make some noise, we'll figure it out.
Either way, we're loud. Don't worry.
Bring some glasses, whatever we have to do.
Whatever we need to
I'm
do.
so sorry,
We're
you
gonna
have to, you have to sit with my wife, my mother, and my aunt.
Sure.
Men of distinction.
It's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, prepare for that.
I think so though, because I think I have like 8 of my table when I bring you.
I don't know, I think Tammy's got you at their table or somehow work that out, but if
Well,
so,
either way.
prepare for that.
How about a handbook on what's normal? I'm not supposed to get
I
like
think with my mom and aunt,
some stuff for Saturday.
Waiting on Tammy and George.
Animal Party City and got all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I
they're entertaining.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
See,
that.
there we go. That was really
Like,
They
the
will
handbook.
definitely
all
entertain.
I care
Some
about.
people do it, some people don't. I don't think it's a huge deal.
Just keep their hand out, they want to bid
Do
it.
you want to have
Which somehow I'm gonna end up paying for it.
Do my
largest crowd? Even if I don't win, but
We'll be there.
Yeah, Tammy said they were.
Apparently
I don't know how that is.
yep. Cowbells.
I just send out the official
Could
bid
be.
for cowbell.
Oh, here.
Could be.
And her mic. And I know one time your wife was at my table, but then I heard it through the updates about, I don't know what.
Maybe, well,
Yeah, I have 2 tables right now, most of everybody.
they're a party whatever table they're at, so they'll be fine.
Exactly.
Well,
I told Sean he gets to
tell them let's go.
hang out with Wayne.
Oh, there's George.
They're both
Where's
over
Tammy?
there. She's there too.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's sitting down.
Hey, Tammy and George, y'all about ready?
Actually, the guy that's so, oh, really? He's single though, and I'm like, so I have one single ticket, but I'm like, he's trying to get set up. I'm not just a friend's husband or something.
Are you going to the dance with Star Step?
I don't know. I'm not like.
Oh, if Alice doesn't want to go much, me my date.
He's
Tell
like,
him strong lead.
he needs to see what he's gonna do next year. So.
What'd you say? Do it next year, Dance with the Stars?
I think we already got somebody.
Ray said he might do it too.
Oh, awesome.
You gonna dance next year? You're thinking about it, look at him.
I'm actually okay to answer.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
I'll buy a ticket for that. Two.
I'm going to reconvene the meeting at 9:34. So we are at agenda item 8A. This is reading and public hearing of ordinance O-18-2056. We will take action tonight. This is consideration of a zoning change from the R40 Single Family Residential Zoning District and Agricultural Zoning District to the PUD-R Planned Unit Development Residential Zoning District on Lot 1R1 and 1R2, Block 1 of the Bear Creek Plantation, located at 1312 John McCain Road and 7309 Holly Lane, case ZC 18-019.
All right, thank you. This is for the Oak Alley project. I'm not going to go over too much on this. We've talked about it very recently, but I do want to spend some time on this slide as far as the summary of changes. So since the last time that this item was up for decision, they have subsequently removed one additional lot. That brings the total down to 34 lots. And with that removal of the lot, they redistributed that area for the lots that are along Holly Lane, so that every lot there along that row is a minimum of 30,000 square feet. Also on Holly Lane, they did remove the pond that was there. It was more for aesthetics to begin with, but that will be maintained as an HOA lot, open space lot. It's just that it will not include the pond. It'll have some other improvements there. I think a gazebo, definitely a sidewalk. And then additional to that, the applicant is going to do some minimal offsite, I guess, a grading of land, primarily for a new, well, first to extend a pipe underneath Holly and have some type of inlet to catch some of the water that is somewhat of an issue for properties there on the west side of Holly Lane. It'll get it into their system. But the bigger one identified with number 2 is that there's a small tributary to the north on adjacent property that they'll do some grading so that it will redirect it and take it into the remaining pond that's in their large open space area on the north portion of their property. And they do have an exhibit that we showed last time showing how that would work. As far as the PUD ordinance itself, very minimal as far as correcting all the lot references and then identifying that those off-site drainage improvements will be made. Otherwise, all other conditions, regulations, agreements, exhibits, et cetera, remain unchanged. And so everything else in that PUD document is untouched unless identified just now. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that since the last time this was up for consideration, several of the adjacent property owners have rescinded their opposition formally through letters, which have been provided to you. With that, the total opposition is down to about 11%. That removes or eliminates the trigger for a supermajority vote. And so a simple majority is all that would be needed for approval on this item now. This is the revised plan. Again, it is for 34 total lots now. And I do have all of the other exhibits as well if you'd like to go to it. But the last thing I wanted to say is that at our last council meeting, it was remanded back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for one final review. They did hear it last week at their meeting on the 11th, and they recommend approval all of these changes, and it was by a 4-0 vote. I'd be glad to answer any questions or go into any more detail.
Very good. So let me just give a little brief background. I'm not going to go through everything, just for those that are here and haven't been through all the other meetings. So this is the culmination of a number of meetings over the period of months. And what Ben just went through were the PUD ordinance changes since the last serious consideration by the council. And in previous meetings, I went through every one of those. There's many of them. So let me just speak to a couple of fundamental principles that we were operating on here. This is a very iconic piece of land in town. It's 43 acres where the big plantation house is that the Collins live in. It's been there since the 80s. Beautiful, beautiful piece of property. And so they chose to develop it. And so we're in the end here. And so there were, took a lot of time, everybody did, development applicants and all the neighbors all around it to discuss what are the issues and with the intent to try to address and mitigate those issues. So that's why this is a plan unit development ordinance. The reason it's the plan unit development ordinance because we can put into the zoning ordinance all of these considerations and they carry the force of law. And so that takes away any uncertainties about what will happen in the future. And so we went to quite a lot of trouble to actually understand them, capture them, and build them into the ordinance. So we haven't listed all that. You can read the ordinance, it's quite long, has many conditions on that ordinance. And so it came to the council. At that time, it required a supermajority. The P&Z approved it 7-0, came to the council, required a supermajority. There was a motion to approve. The motion failed because it was a 4-3 vote, so it wasn't enough votes to be supermajority. And so at that point, I was called by actually citizens that lived around it and a representative developer who both said, hey, we believe we can work together, come up with some solutions to that. In the end, get the protest below the supermajority criteria level, which is 20%. So we said, fine, if you do that, if you work together to make that happen, whenever it gets below that 20% level, fine, we're willing to take it up again. So that's, in a nutshell, that's been the process. So it's been a long process. So tonight we're at the end of that process. And so that we're below the 20% level, 11% level. We're now at a normal vote, and we're in a position to vote on it. And so the council is very familiar with this, I believe. And I think what's important for us to understand right now is what the changes that have been outlined, the changes from the last time we spent a lot of time talking about it. I think all the key items have been done from my point of view. I'm supportive of this. Let me, at that point, kind of open it, any comments or questions that you may have, and then I'll have a public hearing and we'll get on with it. Any comments by anybody?
Well, I know that personally, I appreciate all the work that both the developers and the citizens put into this. I was one that voted against it on the last go-round based on the lot sizes, and I see that though not all of them are over 30,000, which I was hoping for, I believe you've gotten to a very good compromise, and I appreciate all that work.
Very good.
I also just wanted to clarify that there's going to be no construction vehicles along Holly Lane during the construction. I've had some residents asking me to clarify.
Yeah, so that's one of the items that's actually written into the ordinance. There can be no construction vehicles along Holly Lane. Kind of associated with that, there was a requirement also in the ordinance that the wall that typically in developments that are done, the perimeter walls, are actually done up front rather than later. So that's unusual and different. Purpose of that was kind of contain the construction. So I think Ben would get up, but there'd be a caveat on the traffic. So one of the changes, well, actually it was in there, but he mentioned it, there's going to be a pipe for drainage put under Holly.
Okay.
And into actually Mr. Pierce's and close to Jeff Pister's, he's sitting out here between their homes, to drain some water out off-site. That will require construction on Holly to put the pipe in. So other than that, none.
Okay.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then, just a slight question. Once the pipe comes under the
Right.
Holly, it'll be tapped into the drain.
Underground
The
drain.
underground
Yeah.
drain system.
Yeah.
There won't be a pond there, but it'll be captured in the pipe, whatever size pipe's required.
Correct.
And then it will flow then down to the lake that's on the right-hand side of the picture. right?
Correct.
And then
And
on
we'll
out
get-
into the river.
Yeah.
To Big Bear.
Big Bear Creek, correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to open.
There was also, wasn't there also some water regraded some way, some regrading done towards the north side?
Yeah, that's the other thing that Ben mentioned. So,
If you can show that.
yeah, so if you can recognize this. So that's the pond that you referred to.
Yeah.
And then the blue and the orange
To the
and the
left,
red
yeah.
is where all that regrading happens.
So that will divert
Yep.
the water
Yep.
from going directly down to Big Bear across the pond, and then
Yep.
it'll hit Big Bear Creek on the
On the red,
on the
the
east
reds,
side.
correct.
Northeast side.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just for clarification.
So just for y'all listening, we've talked about this for virtually hours, so we're kind of really short-circuiting a lot of the detail.
Yeah. But I just thought some of those were the major.
Yeah, that was definitely major. Yeah, from the last time, that was a major deal. Under Holly was a major deal. It was already there. Losing a lot, as Chuck said, was a major deal. Taking away the pond on Holly was a major deal, but leaving that open space controlled by the HOA. I'm answering all the questions, shouldn't be, but.
No, that's fine.
Any other?
It's just been a pleasure to work with both sides. I mean, Rich and
Yeah, this has been a real interesting process where, an example where everybody's worked together, got to this point, which is good for everybody.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing, and then we can talk about it some more if we need to. Public hearing is open. How many cards? Yes. Okay. Yeah, Kathy Hadley.
Kathy Hadley, 24 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. I've come to some of these meetings, and bless their hearts, I mean, I know that they're trying to make it work. I just want to remind y'all, this is Colleyville. And we like the large lots and the ponds and this open space and the wildlife, not cramming in some houses. Granted, some of those lots are kind of small. Some of them are quite nice. Maybe you could combine two of the smaller ones and make it one larger one. I know y'all, looking at the map, you can tell which ones are the smaller ones. It'd be nice. And I know this gentleman's really trying to work with y'all, but I would like to try to maintain Colleyville's country atmosphere as much as possible, and that means sacrificing a lot or two and combining it, making it a nice big one, not chopping it up into 3 or 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating that, so I'm going to close the public hearing. I still see no one, so I'm closing the public hearing. Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay. So we can talk about it some more. So there was a question about lot sizes and density. I'll just say So this, average lot size on this is in the high 30,000s, I think. Used to could tell you that number exactly. It's gone up a little bit, which is, you know, R40 zoning, residential 40,000 square feet, we consider it an acre. That's slightly under an acre. This is close to that, but not quite there. I will say this, in my assessment of this, if this was zoned straight R40, I mean 1 acre lots, there would actually be more lots in this 43 acres than there is here. There's 34 here, and there would be somewhere between up in the high 30s. I think it may be 39, 38, somewhere there. So just, I think everybody's done an admirable job of getting this down to actually below North or 40 with a lot of amenities added that wouldn't be there with North 40. So the reason I say that, Kathy, is we really work hard to make sure we're living up to the comprehensive plan in every aspect. So we can talk about it, or the motion is in order, either one.
One last thing real quick. I just,
Okay.
again, I was going to say just a second ago, I want to thank Rich Diott and Wayne and Charlie and those guys. I spent multiple hours on the phone with these guys. It was always casual. It was always calm. It was, how can we make this better? And both sides saw it. Hats off to Burke for giving Rich the okay to do the things he did, and hats off to the residents for being able to come together and find out the solutions. And it felt good, you know, that these two parties came together to have this solution. This is way better than, in my opinion, way better than what we first originally started with. Even the one we had last time, this is way better. And so I enjoyed working with you guys.
Absolutely.
Very good. Motion's in order.
I move to approve ordinance O-18-2056.
And I will second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rigney, a second by Councilmember Kelly. So, no other discussion. Would you open the vote, please? And you may show it whenever it's ready. Okay, that motion is approved, therefore the ordinance is approved. We expect, yeah, Rich, you may say something.
Thank you, Council, and I appreciate this time to just mention a couple of things. Y'all have approved this now. We have to go get it built now. So I want to acknowledge the City Council's work. Many of you have been involved with us and our neighbors. I want to acknowledge them too. This has been a very difficult process for everybody. In almost 35 years of doing this, this is it for me. This is one of the most difficult cases, really the most difficult that I've had to do. So I want to acknowledge everybody's involvement in getting it to this point. And when I started this, I know everybody doesn't share my faith, but Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. And so what I look for when I'm trying to resolve with a group of people anything is I look for the peacemaker in people. And sometimes there's not one there. They just want to fight. But in this case, everybody that I've interacted to a person, I've been able to find where the peacemaker was in them and see it. And Colleyville is blessed with some really good citizens. So I say that for two reasons. One, it's true. And second is we have to continue to work together. And we are committed to doing that. I've talked to Burke about this quite a bit. We know that we've got probably another year of interaction, and we will try as hard as we can to keep the communication lines open and make sure everybody is communicating. And we on our side thank you all for your diligence and for getting this done tonight. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to add my appreciation to all the citizens, because this really is kind of a case study where so many people work together so hard. It was not always happiness, but I think everybody worked through it. I really appreciate you, Burke, Curtis, Randy, everybody on your side, and especially Burke, because I know, Burke, you You had to give the okay and allow this process to work out, and you did that. And I got to tell you, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again because it's absolutely true. Over 30 years of me being involved in zoning cases, some very difficult ones, I will say I've never seen an applicant developer be willing to do so many things to try to resolve issues for the residents. I mean that, and I appreciate that. And you told me over and over, this is going to be the high quality development. That literally is written into the ordinance, and I absolutely believe that's going to happen. And if not, you'll hear from us, but I'm not worried about that because I absolutely think it's going to happen. And Rich, to you especially, we had many conversations. I appreciate the effort you put into this and your demeanor in doing this. I'll tell everybody this. At one point I told Rich, I said, hey, you're beating a dead horse here. He didn't give up, and he got through the end. So,
Well,
big success.
Thank you very much. And that really comes, again, from being able to see how we could work with everybody. Burke did give me a lot of latitude in certain of these issues. Curtis Young is the best, and I've worked with Curtis for 20 years. He's the best planner that I've ever worked with. And we've done so many developments. We do high-end work.
Yeah.
The Huffs as well, Randy. The whole team on our side knows what we're about. We know what we're doing, and we're going to get it done. And if there's anything missing on that, call us.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we'll get it fixed. I promise you that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate what you said. It's going to be a good long time making this happen, actually doing the work. There'll be many things that come up. There'll be things that happen that people get upset about. As long as we're all talking about it and working through those issues, it'll be fine.
Well,
I really
we're going to be in a great place in a year.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we move to agenda item number 9. Get back to my agenda here. Okay, we're up. Wow, we're nearly done. Citizen comments.
Holy moly.
What?
Huh?
I said, holy moly. This is before midnight.
Yeah, what time is it? 9:55. Wow, I didn't hear any bets today before we started.
It's been jinxing us, so.
betting on this one.
Okay, so agenda item, citizen comments for items not on the agenda. I do have one card, Kathy Hadley.
Oh, and then Mrs. Hennessy also raised her hand too.
Oh, and okay, and you may speak, of course.
Kathleen Hennessy, 5013 Stonebridge Drive in Colleyville. I have a request from a number of people that I'm interacting with. I'm the precinct chair, so one of the things requests I have that I wonder if you could think about is Meet the Candidate, sponsored by the city for all the candidates that are running for election, where they could just all meet and each of the candidates can have a 3 or 4 minute elevator speech. They'd really appreciate that because otherwise they have very little ability to really find out who the people are that are running for office. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. And then Kathy Hadley.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, represent myself, and of several things. First is the center lane on Cheeks-Parker Road when it is dark and it's been raining. The white lines that y'all drew along the sides are great.
Kathy, can you get closer?
But the center lane markings need to be there on Cheeks-Parker. The white lines on the side show up good, but the dividing line needs to, when it's raining and dark, it's like, if it wasn't for the white lines, you'd be up the creek. Plus, as you're going east on Cheeks-Parker, once again, Bedford Road has an entrance into a little neighborhood where they have a little median jutting out into Cheeks-Parker, and they may be on their side, I guess, but because the lane is not marked real clear, you're following along the way you think you're supposed to be going, and Cheeks-Parker's actually going off to the left, but you don't know it, and people are hitting that curb. I haven't hit it, but people are hitting the curb. You see black marks on it from the Bedford side. So that needs to be marked so people know. Then also with all this flooding going on, people on Cheeks Barker, what is the mosque's responsibility for their drainage plan when they put in the mosque? There was not there was not a flooding problem until the mosque went in. What kind of drainage plan did the mosque have to follow? I think that they need to be held responsible for fixing the problem for those poor people on Cheeks Barker with the flooding that they're getting. Not the city, because that area used to handle the water just fine, but now it's all concrete with the parking lot and the building and everything. So that's an area that it needs to be looked into. And then back in the early 70s, my friends and I would ride our horses to that neat little Hall's Market, stop and get a Coke and get on the horses and ride off. I mean, that place has been there a long time, so it brought back memories. It was great. Okay. I've come across some information on council members, and because of y'all's conservative nature and the way your principles and the way you present yourself, please hold true to those values. That's what got you elected, and it's got you up there to represent our wonderful conservative city. Please don't be a rhino. Is that what they're called? The people who say they're one way and they're actually another. So hold true to your values, please. And Highway 26 construction, we're going on 3 years. There are so many days, I don't see anything going on. I have tried to get in touch with some people with TxDOT, and they don't return my call, or I return theirs, and it's just telephone tag back and forth. Why aren't the people working 24/7 getting that road fixed? It's been 3 years and nothing's going on. And then we go back to the signal lights on Glade and 26 going east and west. I told TxDOT you need to put lane markers, directions up on the lights, signal lights, because once again, people who are in the left lane, you're supposed to go left, but you think as you're sitting there at the light, you can go straight because Glade Road on the other side of 26 is 2 lanes, so you think you can go straight. And so the person in the right lane who is going to go straight has this person in the left lane who's supposed to go left. Both of them are going over. It's like accident waiting to happen. So please put the fire to TxDOT's feet and get the lane markers up at the signal lights at Glade and 26 and Church Street and 26 and Hall Johnson and 26. It is a very serious accident waiting to happen. And TxDOT, may I continue? I'm almost done. I think that's it. I appreciate the work y'all are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that's all the cards. Anyone else wish to speak? See no one saying
Just
so?
a quick comment. Thank you, Ms. Hadley, for the chocolates.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That means a lot to us.
Okay. So we'll move to agenda item 10, which are reports. So in your package, you have Parks and Recreation minutes and Library Board minutes. We won't go over them unless you have questions or comments about them. None. Therefore, we move to 11. We have no ending resolutions that we need to do. Therefore, I move to 12, which is adjournment, and I am going to adjourn unless somebody objects. See, no objections? We're adjourned. Thank you.